everybody. Welcome to the Multifamily Legacy Podcast. I'm your hostess, Shelly Peterson, also known as Mama Kahuna. And for the month of February, we are going to talk about my favorite topic, love and business. How do you stay in love with your partner if you're in business with them? And on the other side, how do you have your partner be supportive of you if you are a solo entrepreneur? So today I have my good buddy Gannon Coffman, who's our COO of Kahuna Investments. Him and I are going to have just kind of an open dialogue of what it takes to have a successful relationship if you are working with your spouse or if you're not working with your spouse. Hey, welcome to the show, Gannon.
Hey, thank you, Shelly. Happy to be here.
Well, listen, I think you and Corey have very similar backgrounds when it comes to relationships and marriage. How long have you and Rachel been married?
Oh boy. 6 years.
6 years. Corey
16 years.
16 years with kids. So listen, man, you and Rachel are, 10 years behind where Corey and I were. We're going on to 22 years of marriage and been together for 23. Our kids are grown. We are at the point of empty nesting. So Connor's a senior in high school, whereas your kids, Bo is the oldest. And
he's 6. Well, he'll be 6 next month. Yeah.
And then the girls are still, they're not in school yet. So you guys are at this phase of just crazy chaos, man. You guys are in the thick of it.
That explains it.
You're working full time. Rachel is, she's a full-time mom. Our stories are very, very similar, but they're also very different. So for those that are listening, when Corey and I first started out in this entrepreneurship relationship, I was actually the breadwinner at the time. And so, a lot of times I see couples that dive into this entrepreneurship, role, and they both quit their freaking jobs. They quit their W-2 jobs, and then they wonder why they have problems in their marriage. Right, Gannon?
That's right. Yep. Same here. Rachel was a breadwinner here too.
Yep. And so I always think about why would you do that to yourselves? Because, you got to have one person that's bringing in the consistent income, because if you are doing this together and there's no income coming in, guess what? What is the number one cause of divorce? It's
money.
It's the money, honey. It's the financial. So I knew early on that someone had to be the breadwinner if we were going to be the risk taker. So if you're looking at relationships, there's very different roles of men and women. I truly believe that. We have very different mindset. Gannon, what does it take what do guys want out of their spouse? What is the number one thing that men want?
Well, I think men inherently want to I think a lot of men base their level of self-satisfaction and happiness in life to the ability to which they're able to provide for their family, right? If you're not making money, if you're not being successful, if you're not achieving your goals, it is hard in today's environment as a conscientious father, I think, to feel good about yourself, right? You tie your self-worth to the ability to which you're able to provide for your family. And nobody's going to put more pressure on you than yourself or your spouse. But I think in order to have a successful marriage and relationship, that if you're going to go into entrepreneurship, you better set expectations beforehand. And to your point, Shelly, if you're going to go be an entrepreneur and you have the spirit to do that, it would be wise, I think, to continue working a W-2 job, have that in-place income, and work your side hustle up until a point where you can replace that income with something consistent and predictable. Because if you don't, you're at risk of running into a buzzsaw. And Rachel was in healthcare. She was doing PT and home health and going into people's homes. And I went from medical device sales into commercial real estate, went from making good money to making no money, and benefits to no benefits. And that all happened pretty quick. And we made the decision together. And that was over 10 years ago now. But it took a while to get that ship up and off the ground. And it was an all hands on deck process. But at that time, we just had Zoe, who was, 4 at the time, who will be 15 this year. And we didn't have 4 kids. We probably wouldn't have been able to do it at this point. So there's a lot of different decisions that go into that. But I think if you're going to do it, manage expectations, get ready to sacrifice temporary comfort for long-term rewards, keep your eye on the prize, and, just like you do in any sales and do in your marriage, cast the vision, bring your spouse into the vision,
I
right?
love that. I love that. You really hit the nail on the head. From a woman's perspective, they want security. It's always
Yep.
ask any woman, they want their man to provide, but they also want the security. So for us, it was flipped a little bit. I knew from the very beginning that Corey was going to do something great. As a matter of fact, there's always a crossroads in one's marriage, right? And for us, the crossroads was I used to do Arbonne, multi-level marketing. And
Yeah.
I'm not knocking multi-level marketing. I think it's a great way to make extra money, to grow a business, to have the resources available. And at the time, that was my side hustle. I was in the pharmaceutical industry. And then I did Arbonne on the side, and I realized I can't do both. Running your business full time and then also having a W-2 job is very, very difficult. But I did well in Arbonne. I became a regional vice president. I earned a white Mercedes. I was killing it, knocking out of the park. And I told Corey, I said, we can't have two businesses. We need to pick either we choose real estate or we choose Arbonne. We can't have both. And I can't keep, there's only so much that a person can do in terms of, working their W-2 jobs and then working another business. We couldn't have two businesses. So we chose real estate. And I said, you figure out this real estate business. I will hold down the fort with my pharmaceutical job and let me just be your supporter. Let me help you get to where you need to go. And that's what I did for the longest time, Gannon. We had small kids at the time, and
Yep.
I knew that I needed to play my part if Corey was going to be successful. He would have to have a strong support system at home. He would have to have a big cheerleader, someone that he can confide in with, right? We needed to split the household responsibilities. I looked at this as a partnership. And so, for guys that need, and, for Corey, his love language is words of affirmation. I think this is probably true for most men. They look for their spouse to say, "Oh, honey, you're doing great. You're killing it. Keep going." Right. But
100%.
for the women, it's more of we need security. We need our guys to provide, bring home the money because living paycheck to paycheck can be scary. If one person lose, and that's what happened to us. I lost my job in the pharmaceutical industry. Corey lost his job in the financial world, and so that can put a lot of stress on a marriage. So words of affirmation, talking about women need security. What other things that men need from their spouse in order to thrive?
Well, I think that you can have a really tough day in the office and go home, and if your wife will give you a little attaboy, it can go a long way, right? If you can still have your wife on your side or your spouse on your side, that can make all the difference. So, my love language is certainly words of affirmation or words of encouragement. Rachel's is quality time. So we both understand that. And even if we're just sitting on the couch watching an hour of TV after everybody knocks out in that, or 45 minutes or whatever it is, that's a good fix for the day, good way to wrap up our day. But yeah, we also are big fans of multiple streams of income. Rachel works a business from home, and it gives her something to do in addition to just being a full-time stay-at-home mom. I think it's healthy for full-time stay-at-home moms to have something that they can focus on outside of just being a mom if they want to. There's no obligation, no need to make them feel like they've got to do anything else. But it's fun for people to feel like they're building something, right? Like
Right.
Tony Robbins says, your level of happiness is in direct proportion to what you feel is the pursuit of a worthy goal and the attainment of a goal
Right.
and improvement and moving towards something. So I think that has got a lot to be said for it. And some women enjoy being full-time stay-at-home moms, and some are built for business, and
Hey,
it just right.
Gannon, I was not built to be a stay-at-home mom. I tried it
So
for
some
one
women
year
are
and I
not,
said, forget it. I said, I need to go back to work. For
and
those stay-at-home moms,
yeah,
God love you, because it's a lot of work. I think it's
Oh
more
my
work
gosh.
to be a stay-at-home mom. And
Yeah.
Rachel, God bless her soul, that woman, she's running little toddlers. And so
Yeah.
that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Pure
Um,
chaos. Yeah. It's great. And it's great, but it gives you something else to attach your identity to, right? Just something else
yes.
to work on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is the month of love. It's February. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. What are some things that we can do as women? And then I'm going to ask, you asked me that question. I'll ask you the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
How to stay connected. I know you talked about earlier about quality time. It's funny because, Corey, I love quality time. You will always find Corey and I either jeeping, rock crawling, or we'll go to Sturgis. Um,
Even your walks, right?
my morning walks, let's talk about that. Every morning we go on our 3 mile nature walk.
There you go. Big
And
deal.
I will tell you, for Corey, it helps him unpack his brain. And
Yep.
so for those that know us, we're both mavericks. And so what does that mean? That's our communication style. We're very direct alpha type of people. And so a lot of times when Corey is kind of unpacking his brain, a lot of times I'm already in the mode of, how do I solve that? And it goes the same for him too. If I'm talking, telling about my day, or if any problems, he wants to solve it. And oftentimes I just want him just to listen and take in what I have to say. I don't want him to solve anything, right? And it's for him too. He doesn't want me to solve anything. And it's just to allow ourselves to be able to talk things through and to talk it out. You don't have to necessarily solve it. Have you ever heard of the Walt Disney departments?
Yes, I have, but why don't you share with the listeners about it? I've heard it because you guys always
So,
talk about it.
oh, I mean, it rings so true to us. So, Walt Disney has these different departments, you guys. So, you have the Imagineer department, you have the Engineer department. Okay. You would never put the Imagineers with the engineers, because the whole goal for the Imagineers is to simply imagine. Now, imagine this: if you were to take the engineers and put them in with the engineers, nothing would get done in the Imagineers, right? I mean, their whole goal is just to imagine what they can build at the park. And it doesn't matter how they do it, they just want to come up with these crazy ideas. And then once they come up with these crazy ideas, they take them to the engineer department, and the engineers try to figure out a way, well, how can we make that happen? It's the same with our relationship. You can also go as far as, when you're communicating from one another to one another, it may sound like this. Listen, and I've always told Corey this. I'm like, honey, I'm in my Imagineer department. I don't need you to be in the engineer department to go fix it.
Yeah. 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 I think one thing that me and Rachel say is if one of us comes together with a problem, we'll say, what do you want? Comfort or solutions? Right? It's like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a shoulder to cry on and have a little bit of a little pity party here for a minute? Or you want me to tell you how to go fix your stuff? Because guys are always like, this, that, and the other, do X, Y, and Z, and then this will happen and then it'll be fixed. And it's like, I don't want you to tell me how to fix it. Just shut up and just listen to me.
You don't tell her to shut up though, do you?
No, that's what she's saying to me. She's saying,
okay.
you shut up and you listen to my problem. I just want to cry on your shoulder for a second. And I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, no problem. So comfort or solutions. But yeah, that's a good way for us to kind of get a temperature check on where the other person is at.
All right. I love that. Well, talk to me. What do you
Yeah,
think the
well,
audience should what do you think the audience should know?
The best way to stay connected to your partner in business, right? I mean, you guys, it's hard for you not to wear all these different hats, and you guys, it's hard to turn it off because this business is never off. It's impossible for you to not take stuff home. It's just we don't live a 9 to 5 lifestyle. It's just your brain is always thinking about what did I not do? What could I have done? What could I have done better? What can we do tomorrow?
Right.
And there's 3 businesses in this one company umbrella that we operate with Kahuna. So how do you stay connected and keep the romance alive with everything that you've got going on here in the business world?
I will tell you, Gannon, there are days where it's not easy. Thankfully, Corey loves this business. I don't ever see him doing anything else ever. If it was up to me, I would say I would just love to passively invest in other people's deals and not have to worry about anything. But you already know that Corey's a freak of nature. He loves operations. He loves the multifamily space. He loves every aspect that pertains to multifamily. Me, on the other hand, I like my girls' trip. I like to do the events, the networking, being on shows. I'm the ambassador of fun, right? And I could easily retire, which I did. I retired in 2016, but then I got bored and said, okay, where could I fit in? So here I come into real estate kicking and screaming. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, I actually know a few things when it comes to multifamily and investor relations, and I actually enjoy it. So, Corey and I, because we're both Mavericks, we will butt heads on a lot of things. But at the end of the day, we always come back to full circle. I always have his back and he always have my back. I am his number one cheerleader. He's my number one cheerleader.
Yeah.
And
Have grace, right?
right. Well, today he's like, hey, record a podcast on love. And I will tell you, it's very uncomfortable for me to get on here and talk to people that I don't know about our love life and just to be on a podcast in general. And so that's why I asked you to come on here, Gannon, because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone to do something very uncomfortable, is talking to an
What the
an
listeners don't
audience.
know is that you did 2 or 3 show takes on your own by yourself, and you're like, I need someone to talk to. I need to bounce ideas off. I can't just sit here and talking to a computer on.
It's very unnatural and it's very
Yeah.
awkward
Yeah.
for most people. Now, Corey makes it very, very easy. I don't know how he does it, but that's kind of who he always been. He can just get on and just to talk. He always adds color to everything that he does or say. And I guess that dude's got a lot on his mind. So he'll just
Yeah.
share with everything that's going on in his mind. But for us, I think it's very important that we take the time to separate business from life. And there are days where I'm like, stop talking about business, honey,
Yeah, I was
because
going to say, how do you
it,
set boundaries, right? Does that play an
oh,
important
oh,
role?
absolutely. I tell them, like, let's talk about something but business, because I have to shut my brain off because we have so much going on here at Kahuna.
Yeah.
We have the Kahuna boardroom, apartments to millions. We just got back from that big due diligence. There's just so much happening with the Kahuna management. We have a lot of moving pieces. And so I think it can make your brain feel like scrambled eggs at times if you don't take a pause and say, all right, let's reconnect and let's just come together as a family, as a couple. And we do that quite often, whether if we're going jeeping, rock crawling or going to Sturgis. I will say Sturgis is probably my favorite time to reconnect with Corey because it allows us to be in one with nature and just riding on the back of a motorcycle. You can't really think about the business when you're on the back of a bike or if he's riding a motorcycle because all your attention is paying attention on the road and other drivers, right? So
Yep.
we do that quite a bit. But yeah, I think it's important to be able to separate the two, Gannon. And
So sorry to cut you off there, but I think we've talked about, having a routine. You guys have a morning routine, you guys manage expectations, you're taking trips, you're managing boundaries, a lot of good takeaways for our listeners. One question I would be curious to ask is, what made you guys decide to get into business for yourself in the beginning? Why not just make $150 or $200,000 a year selling pharma, in collecting a paycheck and having a 401k and being a passive investor? What was it you think that moved the needle or motivated you and Corey to take the leap of faith?
um, I would say it was our first apartment deal. When we won big, it's like, why would we work for somebody else when you have a big
Mm-hmm.
win like that? But for me, I thought I would always stay in the pharmaceutical industry. I was a district manager managing 9 representatives on the West Coast. I love my job. I love women's health. It's what I knew. It was my identity that was wrapped around that. And I thought I was going to retire from the pharmaceutical industry forever. And, are there times that I miss that industry? I miss my friends, but could I ever go back after having a taste of, the life that I have now? And I think it really centers around my quality of time, my time freedom that
Yep.
this industry has allowed allowed us to have. If I want to take a 2-3 week, trip to Europe, I can do that. I don't have to save up my PTOs. That's why here at Kahuna, when we have our Kahuna family that works with us, that's why we have, our Thanksgiving shutdown break. We have our Christmas shutdown, because I want not only Corey and I to experience that, but we want the people that work with us to experience that same level of, time freedom that they can have with their family. Because one of our core values is we value family. That's very
Yep.
important to us in that time. But yeah, I think about, there's always that fork in the road, Gannon. You make choices. And that fork for me was in 2016, when I was on the top of my career, and I loved what I did. And they said, we're shutting down the doors. There's no more sales and marketing. Now, in the pharmaceutical world, that's very common. If you're in the pharmaceutical industry, you get really good at interviewing for the next job.
Yeah.
And for me, I was tired, because it was the ninth time that I was interviewing over the span of, what was it, 2003 is when I started in so 15 years in the industry.
Yeah.
I got tired of, chasing the next job or chasing the next interview. And when Corey and I had our first big win in multifamily, we sold our first deal and made millions. I was in a position that I didn't have to do that anymore. I didn't have to interview. I could step back and say, what do I really want to do? And I will tell you, that was kind of a tough phase for me. For a year, I seemed a little bit lost. I didn't know where to find my voice. I couldn't find, well, I don't understand multifamily. Like I said, I came in
You
kicking
had
and
to
screaming.
find, yeah, you
Yeah.
had to find your role.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
but you
so,
you you found yourself having the time and the money, right? So you got to do some self-reflection, which is a blessing, of course.
right.
And then you navigated back into sales again.
What's a salesperson? Always a salesperson, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just a different product, right? But
yeah.
I believe in our product here at Kahuna. I've always believed in the deals that we have, and the opportunities that we present. And so for me, it's been very easy. It's an easy conversation to have. And I love running our events, and I love the people that I get to work with. So, that's the other piece of working with your spouse, is making sure you're defining your roles. And I always say, know your role and shut your hole. I always tell Corey, I'm like, stay in your lane, man. Stay in your lane,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And listen, Gannon, you work with Corey and I. Like, tell the audience like what it's like to work with a husband and wife duo team.
It's great, and sometimes it's tough, you know. Corey and Shelly, when you say Mavericks, I don't know that everybody understands what that means, but we use a process called predictive index. So if you want to look it up, that's what Maverick is. I'm a captain as it relates to that particular model of it's not personality testing, but it tells you what type of characteristics you will go back to in your moments of comfort after you're trying to put on a show, but and there's no wrong answers, right? There's a right seat on the bus for every profile. It's just trying to figure out who's going to excel where.
I like what you said earlier. It's like that PI test is like looking into your soul. It
Yeah,
knows you inside
yeah.
and out. It's
So
crazy.
look that up. But having two Mavericks work together, we all have the same goals. We're all working towards the same things. And sometimes people think they should be done differently. But when Corey's happy, you're going to know it. When Shelly's happy, you're going to know it. When they're not happy, you're going to know it. You know, we wear our emotions on our sleeve here, and so sometimes it's fireworks. But we get through it, and we are better for it, and we keep cranking.
And hey, Gannon, I have to thank you so much for like being that buffer between me and Corey, because sometimes it gets pretty heated. We're very open and honest, and
Yeah,
I mean, you will know when we're like battling it out. But the one thing that people don't know is that at the end of the day, we always come back together. We
that's
we
right.
we love each other. Like a good Asian I am, I love Corey long time.
Well, I think so many people are attracted to Kahuna, at least from the employee side, because of the family culture. On the passive investor side, I think that resonates also because we are big enough to do some really exciting things and small enough to still have a mom and pop feel. if you're an investor, you're not going to get lost in the shuffle in Dallas or Chicago or something like that. You can call us on our cell phones and you know where our office is at. Walk in the door anytime. It's always open.
Yeah.
But we can still go take down a $40 million property or north of that. So I think we're a great fit for a lot of great people, but it's the family. Be Ohana, no one gets left behind. It's in our Dakine attitudes, it's in our company culture, our core values. It is the foundation for everything which we do. And so,
Yeah, I love it. Well, talk to me about what other nuggets can we share with the audience if they are struggling and they're a solopreneur? We talked about, Corey and I working together. This is, what do you, if you're working with your spouse, some of the things that you have to do, right? Communication is key. Knowing your role is important. But what if you're in this business alone and you're trying to get your spouse or your partner to jump on board? What do you think are a couple of things that the solopreneur should know to get their partner on board?
great question, Shelley. To some people, time's more important. To some people, money's more important. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, nobody should have to wake you up in the morning and remind you why you're motivated or why you're a self-starter. You should be able to get up and get going and just jump out of bed and handle your business, right? And I think that if you're trying to convince or sell your partner on that, I think again, it is just casting the vision, bringing them into the fold.
But more importantly, Gannon, they have to take massive action. And I will speak from a woman's perspective. If your dude is not, getting up and hustling, that's going to send a red flag to if it's a woman, I'm talking about from a woman's perspective. They do not like to see their men idle. At least for me, I didn't. And I will
That's a
tell
great
you,
point.
when Corey was starting out in real estate, I remember so vividly when he came home, when he got fired from Edward Jones, and he said, "Shelly, I want to do real estate full time." And I had to dig deep down because I'm like, now the whole financial burden was going to be on my shoulders. And we had two small
Yeah.
kids, right?
Yeah.
But I believed in Corey so much, Gannon. I'm like, I know he can do it. He's meant for it. We started on this path. He just needs to finish it.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, his Edward Jones job was getting in the way of his
Yeah.
success. And so I said, giddy up, Big Daddy. I know you
Burn the
can do it.
boats.
I'm like, go to work. And I will tell you, Gannon, oh my gosh, there are mornings that I would wake up at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, where's Corey? Did he have a heart attack? Like I was freaking out. I'm like, where is he? And I would go downstairs and guess what? He was still in the office trying to figure stuff out.
Underwriting
And
deals.
yeah, he was underwriting deals. He was constantly learning about the business, reading, just taking action. Who knows what he was doing at 3 o'clock? I know he was just working his
Yeah.
butt off.
Yeah. Well, I
But
think that if you're in real estate, like you said, you don't know what else Corey would be doing. I don't know what else I would be doing either. And probably a lot of real estate investors are like that nothing else really ever worked for them. They probably weren't a good employee,
right,
or they had ADHD, or they just never fit in the box. So this is a great outlet because nothing's ever the same. Every day
right,
changes. You're problem solving. You get to interact with people, build relationships. You're a professional problem solver. But
yeah,
yeah, you've got to take massive action. And the best way to do that is either to pay for proximity, right? So
right,
you can be in the same ecosystem as people who are doing what you want to do. Like also Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Or secondly, make yourself of huge value to somebody who's doing what you want to do and make yourself irreplaceable.
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, all that's so good. I just know that for women, they want to see their guys, in action.
Mhm.
And I think it's safe to say, like for Corey, he wanted me to give him words of affirmation. You mentioned it earlier that if your woman is not giving you the attaboys, then that's going to be tough on you, on your psyche and your ability to move forward. So, but I also will preface this. If you want the good attaboys and you want the words of affirmation, you men that are listening, you got to have whether action in your business where your spouse can see you growing in your business, or even just the small little acts of random kindness in your home. If you have small kids, helping change diapers, helping do the dishes, take out the trash every now and then without the wife asking you for help. If you just do the dishes without her asking, I can't even tell you that is hot, 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 Gannon. It turns the ladies on.
Yeah, as a good dad, as a quote unquote air quote good dad, you're never off, right? You go straight from waking up at 5, going to the gym, getting your health right, coming home, getting everybody up, making breakfast, getting everyone ready for school, coming to work, doing however many hours you do in the office, going home, playing with the kids, get them showered up, fed, jammies, one-on-one time, bedtime, books, nighttime, then time with the wife, and then you may be working again after that, right? And then you wake up and do it all over again.
Do it all over again, but you wouldn't have it any other way. Now, let me ask you this, Gannon. Do you and Rachel have a love journal?
No, ma'am. There is no love journal in the Coffman house.
Well, have you heard of the love journal story?
No, I have not.
Well, let me just briefly share with you how the love journal got its start.
Please.
So, as you remember, when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, I traveled quite a bit. And I'll never forget, the kids were small. I was off traveling and I was exhausted. I came home from a long work trip. And I will tell you, Corey, even though he was building the real estate business and was, rocking out, just, taking care of business, he was also taking care of business at home. Like, I'm telling you, he was like super dad. This guy would feed the kids, bathe the kids, clean the house. And, I came home from this exhausting trip. And I'll never forget that I walked into a clean house. The dishes were done. He had dinner ready for me. It was like I had a housewife. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And he said, "Honey, go take a bath. I know you worked really hard. I'll get the kids ready." And I just was so overwhelmed with gratitude. And I was just so appreciative of all the acts of service that he provided for me. And in the corner of my eye, there was this really pretty red journal that I've never used. It was given to me by one of my girlfriends from Merck Pharmaceuticals. And we were taking on different jobs, and she gave this to me as a present, but I never used it because it was so pretty. It was red, leather bound. It had a snap. It had gold edges. And I just remember looking at that journal and I wanted to do something special for Corey. So I wrote the first entry. If you guys would see this, it was back in 2010. And I said, "Honey, I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done. I wouldn't want to do life, without you." And I just wrote this really sweet note, and then I put it on his bathroom sink. And hours later, he's like, "Oh, what's this?" Because it had one of our pictures of us when we were just first dating back in 2002. There was a picture sticking out of the journal, and it caught his eye, and he opened it up and saw my note. And he's like, "Oh, well, this is really cool." And so it's become a thing in our household. Anytime that we have something special or a milestone, or when you feel moved to say something sweet or, give some words of affirmation, I'll get, he'll write a note to me and put it on my bathroom sink. And if you were to read this book, Gannon, this journal, it would bring you to tears because it's very real and raw. And we always say that, when Corey and I die, this is the one thing, like if the house is on fire, you're going to grab that love journal because it's the last thing in terms of legacy, what we can leave for our kids, because it has mom and dad's handwriting. It's not going to be AI. It's not going to be, voice, but it's a piece of us. And it's a timeline of all the struggles, all the wins of everything that's went on in our lives. So if you don't have a love journal, let's wrap this up. If you don't have a love journal, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. I suggest you start one today. All right, Gannon, I really appreciate you jumping on here, rapping back and forth while Corey's out. And I hope y'all had a good time. And listen, thanks for listening to the Multifamily Legacy Podcast. And let's close it. What does Corey say at every end of the podcast, Gannon?
He says that if you believe it, you can achieve it. Your dreams are possible.
And your paradise is if
Your
you can
paradise
believe
is
it, you can achieve it, and your
That's right.
paradise is possible.
Boom. All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.